Flagging down. Yeah. 4 guys vote all the ways.
I tried to get it and she couldn't pull it up at the time.
That's what it should be.
I was working alone
Came down here.
Gold. Yeah.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Kosciuszko County Area Plan Commission meeting for July. We welcome you here today. We're going to call our meeting to order with the approval of the minutes of our last meeting.
So moved.
Second. It's been moved and seconded to approve the minutes. Is there any discussion on the minutes? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
And it's approved. Our procedure, for those of you who may not have been to any of our other meetings, is that our plan director, Matt Sandy, will introduce each case. And if it's your case, as he's doing that, if you'd come to the podium there and be prepared to share what you'd have us to know. When it's your turn to speak, then give us your name so we have that as a part of the record. Tell us what you'd like us to know. We may have questions for you. When we've done our due diligence with that, then we'll see if anyone is here in support of your case. Then we'll see if anyone here is in opposition. And then after we've taken all that information, then we'll, as a group, collectively come to some resolution about that, about your case. So with that, Matt.
All right. And just for the record, this is our official first stream. We have streamed a couple of our meetings. We are now compliant with the law. So that went into effect yesterday. So this is streamed just like the commissioners is and recorded and all that good stuff. So we're good to go there. For the hearing, you'll look at, or for the meeting today, you see the first thing we got is final plats. We actually have no final plats on today's agenda, so we can bump down to our old business. And the first thing we had was case Z 2025-14 for Terry Rink. And if you remember right, this was an Ag 2 rezoning request. There was some discussion at the technical committee, and when we as staff had discussion with her on some concerns we had about how that could actually be divided up and meet all the ordinance requirements, as well as some sewage issues. Talking back and forth with her, she's decided to drop the request and is going a different route. So that one is actually off the agenda and dropped. So that was the official business. Now we can get into our others. We do have other business, and we have a couple vacation hearings. As with any hearing that we have for vacations, these are recommendations to the county commissioners. We do not advertise for these. Those advertisements are done for the commissioners' meetings at the 30-day meeting, the statutory requirement. However, we hold a public hearing so that we can review it, pass along a recommendation so that they have some idea from a planning aspect what the thoughts are. It's up to them, just like with any recommendation, how that is handled, but those will be going to the July 29th. I'll repeat that after each hearing as well. So with all that said, the first one we can pick up with is vacation 2025-4 for James Silcox. This is a petition for a vacation to vacate the eastern 100 feet of North Kitson Lane between lots 5 and 6 in Kitson Park. Right-of-way in question is 480 feet east of Harkless Drive in Turkey Creek Township. Let me get the screen up here. We'll get the aerial for you, and then we actually do have video for all 3 vacations just to give you some idea. This is an odd one. We're outside the town of Syracuse, although to get to this site, we have to be in Syracuse to get to it. Kitson Park subdivision is not within the plat or in the town corporate limits. North Kitson Lane and South Kitson Lane, which you can see up on the aerial, are not within Syracuse. They did not annex them. They do have services and provided, but that's a little different situation. What we're looking at is the far eastern end of North Kitson Lane, and the request is to vacate that 16-foot platted right-of-way that dead ends towards the water. If you look at the video, we're looking down to the east right there. That is what that view would look like. And it goes down, you can see the pavement ending and then the grass. Right away, 16-foot wide, straight down through there. Looking, there's a house on the south side, very close, actually had hearings through the Board of Zoning Appeals at one point in time. Panning around. You can see the other homes, one lane pretty well. The frog would be just in the background there, and actually could just barely see the lily pads roof parked along the sideline. Board of Zoning Appeals members may remember this property. We had a hearing not too long ago for variances there. Next shot's just kind of looking back, give you a different perspective. Again, new house proposed in this grass area to the north. Panning around. And you can see the seawall delineating the end there. We did have a chance, we reached out to the town, just even though it's not in town, it is impacted by them. They had no official comment on it. We also reached out to the fire department on this one, Mickey Scott. Mickey felt there was no impact to their services that would have to be provided. So that's just additional information. You do have technical committee comments for each one of our hearings today. You'll see those, as well as the exhibits on the screen, as well as in the file.
Steve Snyder on behalf of the petitioners. I'm representing the owners of the properties on both sides of the area to be vacated. Silcox on the south, Wyant on the north. This, as Matt indicated, has never been opened beyond the driveway you see, and essentially has been maintained by the people on that roadway. The Board of Zoning Appeals members might remember the petition by Wyant for his residence on the vacant lot on the north side. Where that will go will provide access off North Kitson Lane where the current driveway is. And one of the conditions of the approval of that was a side load garage, which is planned for that construction on the north side. The south side, as you can see from the aerial photo, has been maintained as a yard with landscaping, so on and so forth. I had a discussion with Mickey Scott, the Syracuse Fire Chief, about what effect this would have, and he says it will have no effect because if I ever tried to back a truck down there, it would sink. So we're not affecting that. You still be able to get emergency vehicles in on the drive area that's already paved, but the rest of that land is soggy enough that you don't want to drive anything down it. What the effect of this will be is essentially leaving it the way it is. But it will solve some zoning problems, both on the north and the south from a setback standpoint. It will increase those setbacks roughly by 7.5 feet on each side so that they'll be very near to meeting zoning requirements for setbacks for the existing structure and for the one that Wyant's proposing to build. We obviously don't eliminate access to any church or school. We're not eliminating access to any resident, and the neighborhood is fully developed, so we're not going to have an issue from that standpoint. We just want to eliminate the public's right to travel over that portion so that we can finish landscaping it and continue to maintain it as a yard.
Any questions?
Yeah, Steve, with the vacation of that, is half of it going to one property owner, the other half to the other?
Correct. They're both in the same plat, so it's split equally between the two of them.
Okay.
Anyone else? Okay, thank you. Anyone here in support?
Someone put a seagull clear across the whole thing.
Anyone in opposition? All right, hearing none. How would you like to handle this?
During the technical committee discussion, it came up, as you can read in your notes, that we discussed vacating only up to the portion where the pavement ends. As you could see in the video there, there's a power pole. I would make a motion to vacate up to the edge of the pavement. I'm not sure that distance, but slightly less than 100 feet.
I can't see the power pole, but
Okay, we have,
The power pole right at the end of the,
It's right in the middle.
we have a motion here. So we need to have a second if we're gonna then discuss this. Is there a second to this?
second it.
Okay, so now we can discuss. So go ahead, Jim, you have clarification.
well, my motion is to vacate up the yard all the way up to the edge of the pavement. As it's drawn on your map that you presented, it includes a portion of the asphalted area. I'm concerned about the power pole.
state law says that when you vacate a public way, any utilities that are located in it retain an easement for that location. So even if we vacate the entire east 100 feet and there is a power pole in it, that easement remains in effect after the vacation is approved.
It is what it is. Don't try to change it.
Any other comment? Okay, we do have a motion. I'm gonna stay with your motion. Okay, you heard the motion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Let's do it by, I couldn't tell there. Raise your hand if you're in favor. Okay, it is unanimous. All right. So it's vacated as per,
For the technical committee recommendation.
So we will be taking a recommendation to the county commissioners on July 29th to vacate what I'm gonna, for purposes here, about 83 feet up to the utility pole or the existing paved area. Recommend favorable recommendation in that. Then it's up to the commissioners at that point to move ahead with it. So that will be, again, 9 o'clock, July 29th, right here in this room. Right. All right. The next one we can take under advisement is vacation 2025-5 for Ronald Twomney. And this is a petition to vacate the extension of EMS D24D lane from the eastern edge of EMS D23 lane to the water's edge between lots 6 and 7 in Ralph Metzler's subdivision on Dewart Lake in Van Buren Township. Right there on the aerial, you can see the area in question. This is a platted 36. Thank you. Yes, 36-foot wide right-of-way that was platted as part of Metzler's original plat and then referenced through first edition. Metzler's original as well as first edition had roughly about 60 lots total in it. And what they're looking at doing is vacating this street, unimproved street down to the water's edge. As you can see in the video shows that area in question. Grassed area from the south side of that existing house to about the trees. Now, there is a lot 7 sits to the south of this. And if you look at GIS, it's a little deceiving because GIS references it as a easement. However, that easement and the documentation, I'm sure Steve provided it as well as we found it, is only for 8 owners. 8 individual owners own that lot 7, and that's their private access. And they're the only ones who have the rights to that lot 7. So it's an 1/8 interest in that lot, but it's labeled as an easement on GIS for whatever reason. Looking at the video, right there is the area in question to be vacated. That grass area going all the way to the water's edge. Panning around to the south, lot 7, you can see the grassed area to the south. Metzler's ends just down there, about 4 or 5 houses. Looking back off to the west, again, Metzler's would be that area, backed off to the west there. Panning around to the north. Petitioner's home right there. And then come back. Next shot's gonna be down, just kind of give you a different perspective. Again, driveway actually, it's close, may even encroach onto the easement area. It's hard to tell without an exact survey, but it's very close right through there. Again, this is a 36-foot wide platted right-of-way that we're looking at. Next shot's gonna be down by the water's edge, just to give you an idea of what we're looking at there. Again, that about ankle deep, knee deep, pea gravel area right off there. You can see the seawalls wrapping on both sides. Actually standing on the seawall on the south side. No piers coming out though. And we'll freeze it right there for the hearing. As again, we do have comments from the technical committee on this. You'll see that we do, when we get to the remonstrance, we'll pass that through as well. We've got the original plans if you'd like to see those, to see how it was originally laid out. Otherwise, I can bring them up on the screen as well. So,
Steve Snyder on behalf of the petitioners. The documents I gave you begin with a copy of the plat of Metzler subdivision. The area in question is between lots 6 and 7. And this note that this plat has a total of 20 lots in it. That's a factor that we need to consider moving on. This area has never been opened as a public way. It's been maintained essentially by the Lot 6 owners for as far back as we can find anybody who's still alive to talk to. Lot 7, as Matt indicated, is owned jointly by 8 owners. Their undivided 1/8 interests have been tied to their off-lake lots. And I gave you a copy of an agreement that was entered into among all of those, titled Memorandum of Agreement. All of those 8 owners entered into an agreement for joint use of Lot 7 for the purpose of access to the lake. And attached to that agreement are the local GIS printouts for the 8 lots that use that area. So there is still something in use, no question about that. And actually, if this vacation is approved by the commissioners, the area between lots 6 and 7 will be divided equally between lots 6 and 7. So those 8 people actually would be gaining 18 feet of additional space for the purpose of maintaining the piers that they jointly maintain on lot 7. Another interesting aspect is that the developer of Metzler subdivision actually anticipated desires of the owners of off-lake lots to have access to the lake. And the next to the last page in the handout is a warranty deed from Inez Metzler to the Dewart Lake Peach Lane Association for 3 lots in First Edition to Vanes Point. And attached to that deed is a map from the auditor's record showing where those 3 lots are located on the channel just to the north and northwest of Metzler subdivision. The aerial photo that's on the second page actually shows a little better where those 3 lots are off of EMSD 24C lane. There are 10 piers maintained there by the people who reside in Metzler subdivision. And I think it's interesting to note that with those 10 piers and the 8 users on lot 7, that's 18 users out of the 20 lots. We're the 19th, and the 20th lot is lot 7, which is shared by the 8 off-lake owners. So all of the people in Metzler subdivision have access to the lake, which in my opinion is precisely why this area between lot 6 and 7 has never been used for that purpose. The video showed quite clearly the erosion that's continuing on that lot. It's a good 6 or 7 feet further west as a shoreline than the areas where the seawalls were installed that protected the shoreline. So the question becomes, and it always becomes a question when we're dealing with something that runs to the water's edge, whose rights are we eliminating? Well, we're not eliminating anybody's because everybody has a pier space or the right to a pier space who owns a lot in Metzler's subdivision. There is no access to a church or a school. This won't eliminate any access to a private piece of property, whether it's lot 6 or lot 7. Those both have access directly on a public street that is improved and used. The area is fully developed, so we're not going to be imposing any burden on further development. What we're dealing with here is a piece of property that is not used, has not been maintained except by the owners of lot 6, and serves no public purpose at this point. One, you couldn't get to the lake if you wanted to launch a boat there, not the way it's eroded at the shoreline. But what we can do is get this parcel back on the lake, or back on the tax rolls as lakefront property, which I think is about $4,600 a foot on Dewart Lake. So we would be increasing the tax base. We would be actually giving these people who have maintained it a permanent right in it, other than just the burden of mowing it and keeping the weeds down. And also, if they chose, to prevent further erosion on the shoreline by installing a seawall or some type of glacial stone to slow that erosion down. But it's one of those unusual situations where we can actually show that the people in this subdivision, who would be the logical people to use it for access to the lake, all have their own individual access points, either on the lots in Bain's first edition or by the joint ownership of Lot 8. So we're asking for your positive recommendation to vacate this area between lots 6 and 7.
I think a clarification that it's not just Metzler's subdivision. There's Metzler's first subdivision that also abuts it, that does have rights to it. And don't think those two are involved with the lot 7 or the Bain's access points. Yeah, so I mean, just to say there's 20 owners, I think that's a little misleading there. And the other item would be that, you know, state law does say that church or school, but it also says public place. And I think there's no more public place than a public lake.
And I respond to Matt the same way as I responded to Dan, because he always raises the same question. Riparian rights are the right to place a pier, moor a boat, fish, swim, etc. And riparian rights are based upon property titles. If you own the title to real estate abutting a lake, you are a riparian owner. In subdivisions, the ownership of the land under dedicated streets belongs to the adjacent lot owners to the center line of that street. Ownership of the land is what carries the riparian rights with it. So the public may have a right to drive on that as a road, but they don't have any right to do anything as far as accessing the lake, either through installing some kind of a boat launch or placing a pier or whatever, because those rights belong to the adjacent lot owners, and the courts have been very clear in that.
I don't disagree about piers. The rest of it I would question.
What about, I'm reading the notes. And our highway superintendent said that about drainage, and if we would ever need to run drainage through there.
Steve said, you know, he recognizes this is not a county maintained road. He doesn't mow it. He doesn't maintain it. But these platted right-of-ways that go to the lakes do provide outlets for drainage if needed in the future. And in our lake areas, he did note, do have drainage problems historically. If it were vacated and they needed to get drainage in there, that would mean the county then would have to acquire an easement across it.
Matt, do you know if there is water within this addition? Public water,
Oh.
city water, town water?
No, this whole area is serviced by sewer and, or septic and wells.
Wells,
Yeah, these are
okay.
all septic and well lots. Yes.
Which then leads me to, if I could ask Steve a question. So earlier, as we were looking at the previous vacation, you spoke with Mickey Scott, Fire Chief, but that's Turkey Creek Township. A dead end spot like this is a great place to take an engine and draft out of the lake for fire suppression. Did you happen, I'm not sure who the fire chief is for Van Buren Township.
So this would probably be covered either by Jeremy Likens or,
Haynes.
is it Haynes? Okay.
Milford.
Milford, okay.
But if you look at the detail, I don't think, especially shown by the video, you couldn't get a truck close enough to the water because of the erosion of the shoreline. There's a 2 or 2.5 foot drop off, 8 to 10 feet back from the water's edge. And getting a truck close enough down there would be questionable at best.
It wouldn't be easy, but a lot of departments have floating pumps that are basically a small pontoon. They put them out capable of 375 gallons a minute.
Okay.
And most engines carry 30 feet of hard suction.
Okay.
So what I'm saying, the center of the truck, well, no, you could come off the front. So the front of the truck would have to be within 30 feet of the shoreline.
One of the things you always have to remember about that particular fact is when you're fighting a fire, the state law is clear. You can go anywhere on private property you want to fight that fire.
Mhm.
And if that means driving down this vacated road, if it's vacated, that's not a problem.
Until they put a fence up it or bushes in it or a structure in it.
Because if it is vacated and half of it is split between the two property, then that property owner can do what they desire with that piece of
Yeah,
property.
within the zoning limitations.
Yes.
Right.
Within the setbacks.
Yeah.
So there would be a generator on there and a pontoon.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you. Proceed. Anyone in support? Anyone in opposition?
So before they get started, I'm going to pass around. We do have 4 letters of remonstrance. I know we tried to get these out, but one is from Charles and Kay Cochran. One is from Charles and Lauren Cochran, different owner. Philip and Beverly Walstead, and then Aaron Lindsay.
You folks want to just make your way here then that want to speak, and we'll start in and you can come until you feel like you've covered what needs to be covered. So give your name and share with us what you'd like.
All right, thank you. My name is Fred Young, and I have 3 properties in the area. And we've lived there about 48 years, and we're well aware of that property that we're talking about.
Can you tell us where your properties are on that?
My lots is 7 and 18.
How about an address?
And then one up on the county road, as far as my properties go.
Just a moment here, Lee. I believe-
Okay, well, go back, Matt, go back to the aerial.
So that easement that comes off of DMS lane D24 and goes to the water's edge, goes right beside my property and then Larry Gallipo's property before it crosses the D23 and goes into the property of question right now. I've lived here 48 years. I've seen 3 property owners come and go over there in that house for various reasons. One of the main reasons is there's no room to do anything. And then he built a 2-car garage that made it even less able for them to do anything. So it's obvious to me this guy bought wrong. That's all there is to it. In order to correct his error, he wants to take my deeded rights to the easement. he wants to take that for himself so that he's got a piece of property that he can actually use. He's an entertainer. Since he's bought the property, he's had, 4 or 5 cars in there every single weekend. That's great. That's what the lake's for. I appreciate that. I really do. But to ask me and 48 other property owners down there to give up their deeded access to the lake on that easement to correct his error, I believe, is wrong. I don't think we can make that right. I don't believe there's any way to do that. In regards to what they said about the erosion, my wife and I go down there and we keep it trimmed up from the bushes and the trees. There is an embankment there, but it just goes down to sand and gravel. And we've taken care of that for many years. From that lot back up to D24, I've personally paid for all the gravel. I do all the washout repair. I've taken care of that whole place all the way to the water's edge. Now, when them property owners would mow that little section down there, I thought that was a pretty good trade-off. It makes their property look better. But I never thought they'd try to steal it from me. Nobody ever compensated me. I didn't ask for anything. I just thought it was good civil duty. I still do to this day. As far as the erosion goes, I can tell you firsthand that erosion hasn't been more than 3 or 4 feet in the last 10 years. I know I'm down there a lot, 48 years of it. My kids have been down there. My grandkids have been down there. We have access with our kayaks and stuff of that nature. I don't want to lose that, and certainly not over somebody else's error. Let's see, I wrote some notes here so I didn't get too lost. And as far as the usage, I've heard it mentioned that, well, they don't use that anyway. Nobody's hardly ever down there. As far as I know, usage ain't got a darn thing to do with ownership. I got a sports car I drive about once a year when it's really sunny and really nice. But nobody's got a right to take that away from me because that's the only use I get out of it. So I don't think usage has got anything to do with ownership. I got a piece of paper here that goes clear back to August of '77. It says that is deeded access to my properties. Now, I don't know about anybody else in here, but I just had all my taxes raised just recently because they said my property value has increased. I'm good with that. That's how we take care of things. But if I lose this deeded access to my properties, I'm going to devalue my properties. I don't think I'm going to get my taxes lowered. I'm just going to end up with less. And I don't want to give any of my money, time, or property away to somebody that just I'm sorry, he just bought wrong for his intended needs. That's the way I believe. And so I'll just leave it at that. I am opposed to that property being changed in any way, shape, or form other than the way it's been for the last 48 years. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Hi, good afternoon. My name's Aaron Keith. I live at 145 EMS D24. A lot of these people are my good neighbors. Back me. We all really cherish that property, whether we use it daily or not. We all have grandkids that come to the lake, and that's the only way they can get to the lake, just swim, fish, boat, whatever it is. I do own 1/8 of the other property that's beside that, and I personally don't need half that given to me. I would rather see my neighbors that don't have access like I do have rights to go use that property and enjoy it with their kids and grandkids for their future. So I agree with everything Fred said about the property taxes going up, and I support everything he said too. So that's about all I have to say, but really I would appreciate, to keep this the way it is.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
Hi, I'm Kathy Young, and I'm with Fred. So we live 2 doors down from this easement. My grandkids learned how to swim there. My boys learned to swim. We take paddle boards there, kayaks. And as far as a fire truck, yes, you could get it in that area. It's not, the ground isn't dissolving. It's, I mean, I'm sure they'd use their own abilities, but I can't see that being a problem if they wanted to get water from the lake. And I'm very opposed.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Good afternoon, Justin DeSomer. I own 153 EMS D24. I've been out there since 1994. I don't currently live in that address right now, but I've used the easement a number of times. We used to all go down there when we had fireworks and sit there and watch the fireworks, so we didn't have to get out in the boat. We had a perfect view right there. I've been down there. I go fishing down there if I want to. I can step right in the lake and walk out and cast a line. I go out as deep as I want, put a float on, put a kayak there. The kids can go down there and jump in, go swimming if they want to. There's just no need to change anything that has been good for people down there for that many years. And you know, we all pay our dues, so there's no reason to change it. It's a good thing for all the people down there. It really is. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Yeah, one comment here.
I'm Michael George, and I own 2 lots on 152, and I'm just glad there's a place I can put stuff in at. Don't use it at the moment, but this is the back half of the lot there. Use on where the green highlight just.
152.
Yeah, I owned 2 lots right behind 152 there. I'm just glad to know there's a place I can put a pier in and use it, but I don't at the moment. But wife and I are talking about building there. It's just good to know there's somewhere I can go. I'd like to see it stay the same for right now. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Next.
Hi, thanks for your time.
Your name, please.
My name is Karen Mensinga, and we are at 170 EMS D23 lane. So I typed this out, so a little bit redundant, but so I want to thank you for the communication regarding the request to vacate this right of way and the opportunity to voice our oppositions to this, as well as providing some evidence to support why our oppositions should matter. We know the lake is a beautiful natural resource that we all treasure. And first off, this platted right of way, it does belong to all the Indiana residents. If you go onto the Indiana DNR site, it says, you are invited and welcomed. Indiana's public lands belong to all of us as Hoosiers. So it should, my point is that it should not be vacated to a single resident because the state wants all of its residents to enjoy it. Second, many of these residents view this as a land grab because as he said, Mr. Snyder said, it's worth about $4,000 a linear foot. So you're talking about $144,000 of free money. Third, this vacation would obstruct the views of the area residents who purchased, believing that this platted right-of-way would stay as such and that their views were secured. Fourth, this would greatly diminish the values of homes that are accessing the lake using that right-of-way today to sit, to relax, swim, fish, or boat. We know that's what these bodies of water are for. Fifth, the aquatic life would be impacted. There isn't a seawall. The turtles go up there to sun, to lay their eggs, etc. Seventh, it is a low spot, and a lot of ponding does occur there after a rain, so that water does drain into the lakes there. Lastly, it is accessible, as you saw in the video, to people with disabilities. The public launch has a little bit of a pier with this for people with disabilities, but it is not it's not really dignified for them. They're out in the sun. It's maybe 3 feet or 4 feet, I don't know. So people with disabilities, and there's more than one property owner there that has, I've seen ramps at their houses. So it's a nice gradual access to the water. So I don't know these residents, and I live a couple of doors down, but I'm sure that being new to the area, that they'd want to be good neighbors and be respectful and responsible lake area residents. So I don't want to be redundant, so I'm trying to go through this. Again, the people that are not on the lakefront, it would greatly reduce the values of their properties. And what does that do to the area as a whole if you take the access away from people that aren't on the waterfront? Again, I don't want to be redundant. The fire issue is a big deal. I think it's a big factor to consider. Yes, you could go through private property, but most of those houses are so close together that I think that would be an issue for equipment or for manpower to get through there. Again, what the vacation would open the possibility, almost guaranteed, that there would be some structure put up on there. So what kind of issues are you going to have with flooding there? And just to piggyback about the sewers and water, all these lakes have been getting sewers put in. So we would anticipate that Dewar, within the next few to several years, would also be getting sewer. And it is not a public road, that's a road that's private. The citizens put it in, the citizens maintain that road. So I think that I've covered everything. And I just don't want to be redundant. Any questions? No?
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Anyone else?
He's already spoken.
Would you pull that microphone over kind of toward so you can speak into it? That will help.
My name is Bob Mansinga. I'm in 170. I'm Karen's husband. I also have a lot behind me there, 177. I've been coming down here since 1966. And I know a lot of different stuff that happens around here, some good, some bad, whatever. I don't think it should be vacated. I know there's always been an issue with that house and where it sits. I believe it's on the easement. It's a few feet or a foot or something. But I've known the other owners in there. They know it. They've all, I just want to say, I don't think it should happen. It's, people use it. If anything else, like my wife said, giving it to somebody else, I don't think it's right. It goes to everybody back there. So that's it.
Thank you.
I forgot to mention, I'm speaking on behalf of John Peterson. He owns the house, one house north of 135 D24.
Your name again, and we'll
Justin.
give you the privilege. Normally, you get one shot, but we'll give you the privilege that you're speaking for someone else. Okay?
Thank you. Justin DeSomer is my name. I'm speaking on behalf of John Peterson. He couldn't be here. He's on vacation. He's a really good friend of mine. His grandson goes down there as of today to go fishing. So he's definitely in opposition to this. Just throwing that out there.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Come forward, please.
Hello, y'all. My name's Tim Robleski. I live beside Keith, the Keith
Would you
house
state
there.
your name again, please?
Tim Robleski.
Okay, thank you.
I've been out there 20 plus years now, renting this house from my mother. She's too old to be here right now, so I'm speaking on behalf of her, Karen Anderson. And when I first moved in there, I had 4 grandkids. I took down there and swimming in the public access site. Now I got 14 grandkids. And I'd still love to be able to take them down there swimming instead of going down to the boat launch, messing around down there with all the boats and everybody. that's a nice, quiet area. We've had no problem with nobody there until now. I think it should stay exactly the way it is. Free for everybody.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Hi, my name's Lynn Sterling. I live at 117 EMS D24 Lane. There. I just know that, to me, this is like a public area where we can go fishing, or we can just go down there and sit, or as far as it probably used to be, people used to back their boats up in there. I don't know if you can do that anymore because it's grassy area, but you can get your canoe or a kayak off of there. And it's just nice having that area because there's all these people that live around there, and a lot of them do not have access to the lake. They don't have a pier anywhere. And that's the only way where they can go and fish, or take, like take the grandkids or the kids. And I've even talked to some people about trying to get a picnic table and a place sitting up there where we could just go down and sit and watch the kids swim or do something with it. I don't think it should be vacated. I think it should stay with the public, with the lots. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
My name is Matt Pritchard. I really don't have a fight in this because we have two properties at 176 and 180 on the lake. But my concerns would be, besides fire, like the DNR, when they have emergencies, I mean, the only place short of going into the lake is at the ramp, but they have these access sites all the way around the lake. And they can use that as, launch points around the lake. So that's one thing I like to consider. Another point is, sorry about that. Is just the narrow enough. So the other thing we don't talk about too is, you talked a little bit about it, is this is, private roads out there. You can't pass more than 2 cars down those roads. So to go back to the fire, it's very inaccessible to bring lots of vehicles down in there. So to have that access to go back to the fire is another positive, to have that access point, because those homes are hard to get to down in those areas. And then the other one is, if you give that property to the 2 owners, what are you going to do when all the rest of the homeowners around the lake start wanting to do that same thing to all these other access points? You set the precedent one time, all of a sudden, now you're just going to be able to open the window up to the rest of them all the way around the lake. Thanks.
Thank you. Anyone that has not spoken that wants to speak? Our procedure is that the petitioner always has the right to respond. So we'll give Mr. Snyder a chance to respond to what you brought up.
Couple things. Mr. Young indicated he had deeded access and has a document to that effect. In 1970, this was dedicated as public street by the recording of the plat. Once that dedication took place, nobody can grant deeded easement over the public way. Simply can't be done. So if he has a deed, it's not valid, and it probably is not an easement. Maybe there was some mention when he bought his property that he could get to the lake over that public way. I don't know, but there won't be a deeded easement that's valid over that. Use, maybe there's been the use we've described. Those uses tend to be amplified when you get to a hearing like this. It might happen once every 10 years, but it happens once every 10 days by the time you get to this hearing. The question has always been in any vacation, does it deny any property owner access to his property? We know that's not the case here. Will it harm or interfere with potential development of the area? It's already developed. And will it eliminate access to a church, school, or other public place? And it doesn't. This was dedicated as a street, not as a park. I've seen hundreds of plats on lakes where there were parks dedicated on the lakefront. This was dedicated as a street. It's not for picnics. In fact, it could be used for parking by the adjacent owners, but it's not a park where you go to party. It is for street purposes, and it's not being used for street purposes. Ownership, very clear in the law. The owners of Lot 7 and Lot 7 and Lot 6 own to the center line of that dedicated street. They own the land under the street subject only to the right-of-way. And if it's not being used for right-of-way purposes, there's no reason to continue that right-of-way in existence.
Thank you. We're going to close the meeting to public comment, and we thank you all for your input. So now we'll just have a discussion here. What are your thoughts?
Motion to deny.
We have a motion to deny. Seconded. There's a second. Is there any discussion? We'll call for the vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It's denied.
Okay, just like the previous one, this is a recommendation that will be taken to the county commissioners for final action on July 29th, 9 o'clock in the morning, right here. That recommendation will be presented as a 8-0 recommendation not to vacate. Again, just a recommendation. County commissioners have their own decision to make at that point, but we will be presenting it as a negative recommendation. So let me get the paperwork and we'll go from the next one. You're welcome to stick around, but that's the end of this one. Yep, we got another one to go.
Thank you for your input, folks.
All right. With that, then, our next vacation we can take up is vacation 2025-6 for Jama Roos and Jennifer Griffin. And this petition for a vacation to vacate a platted right-of-way between lots 19 and 20 in first edition of Crestwood in Tippecanoe Township.
Excuse me, Matt. Folks, would you take your conversation outside, please?
We'll hold for a minute while I get this up here.
Thank you.
I'm going to pull up the plat on this one because it's a little easier to identify. No. Let's do the aerial just there. Okay.
About this guy.
On the aerial screen right there is the area in question. It's actually a little bit more ground that comes out right through there as well. I'll show you the video of this one. We are out on Secrest Lake. This is within the first edition of Crestwood Sawmill Lake, and that's where we just were. So let me jump. Oh, went too far. All right. Right there is the platted right-of-way. You can see the white shed. That's the north side. That truck's actually parked in the south side, right along through the bushes there, and it stops at that split rail fence you see. If you look on the aerial, when it was originally laid out, they may have had intentions or thought the ground would stay. Ultimately, there is a property out at the very end, but it is essentially marshland. That's all swamp, but it is maybe in a dry enough year you could get out on it. I don't know. But that's the only access point to that. So that's where that is accessed through. This was platted just as a platted right-of-way that is 42 foot wide at the widest, and then it narrows down as it comes back to B40G lane. Ultimately, what they're looking to do is vacating it. If it is vacated, half will go to the north, half will go to the south, just like on these other hearings by statutory requirement. Again, as I mentioned before, these hearings are dictated under statutory regulations with advertising and notification. We don't do that part like we do for our other hearings. So they do have to follow that. They will be advertising for that properly for the commissioner's hearing, because that is the official hearing for this. And that is what is going to be where the recommendation will be taken to on the 29th. We do have a survey that shows it, but essentially taking that property, just splitting it right in half. Along with that, through the conversations with the petitioner, and he'll echo this, I'm sure, if vacated, our concern was that this swamp area would be landlocked. If it's vacated, they have committed to attaching the southern portion of this vacated area to that wetland area so that it does not become landlocked. Landlocked properties, we always want to avoid that.
So Matt, if we just go right straight through there, that leads
Yep.
to that marshy area.
Yes, it does. Yep. So not a lot that can be, to say nothing can be done with it. Yeah, it's a good, maybe recreational bird watch. I don't know, but.
And does the area outlined in red on that, does that encompass everything you're showing us here as far as where the grass is?
Yes, yes. And then just, well, yeah, right out to the right of way through there. So just short, actually, this goes out a tad bit further. It doesn't go all the way to their request doesn't go all the way to the driving surface like I have sketched out there. So for that, I've got all the exhibits. We've got the survey. I can pull that up and I'll work on that while he's giving his presentation as well, so you can see what they provided there. So.
Good afternoon. My name's Scott Royce. I represent petitioners who are the owners of Lot 19, which is the lot on the south side of the platted right-of-way. They additionally own government Lot 7, which is the swamp area over in the lake. I'll just talk a little bit about government Lot 7. It's been surveyed and described at one point as 6.8 acres. There's been additional surveys that describe it as 2.2 acres. The discrepancy being depending on the water and how much is covering the land. Suppose on some dry days there could possibly be 6 acres there. On wetter days there's 2 acres there. But it's essentially an unbuildable wetland tract. My clients are into being conservators, and they like the idea of all the swamp activity that goes on that property, so they own it and have no intention to build it. But what's important is if that right-of-way is vacated, they will receive tract 2 as shown on the blueprint, and they will then deed tract 2 to be combined with government lot 7 so that there is access to government lot 7 through tract 2. Tract 3, as their neighbor, would be vacated and go to their neighbor to the north who owns lot 20. I've spoken with her numerous times. She's in favor of this. She currently uses basically tract 3 as her driveway to get back to her home garage towards the back of her house. So as you saw from the video, they keep it mowed, they keep it updated, but this is much simpler than the last ones we heard. It doesn't go to a public place. It doesn't go to the lake. It goes to 3 properties, one on the south, one on the north, one on the east. And my clients own the south and the east. And so statutorily, vacations are allowed to be granted if they, I'm repeating what Steve Snyder said earlier. Hopefully I have a little bit better results with my argument here, but it clearly doesn't go to a church, a school, other public building, or a public place. It's not a public place. Government lot 7 is owned by the petitioners as well. And it does not hinder development of the neighborhood where it's located. The neighborhood is developed. So there's been some prior litigation about this, but I don't think I need to go into that, but we're just asking you to vacate that area. It's not used as a travel way to get anywhere. And we will preserve the access to government lot 7 by deeding tract 2 to combining it so it provides access to government lot 7.
Where is lot 7?
All right, so the island swamp area that's out in Sawmill Lake is not within the plat. It's a separate parcel outside of the plat. So I'm assuming at the time this was platted, there might have been some concern by people sitting in your position when they were approving a plat that there needed to be access out to that marshy island area. And rather than that swamp being drained, I think it's probably more swampy than it's ever been.
But the island is 7.
Correct.
The island is 7,
Yeah.
yes.
And when he's saying lot 7, government lot 7, so that's going way back to the government lots when these things were originally divided off and split up. But that's what the retention of that legal description has.
Yeah, like I said, my clients own the swampy island that's not within the plat, and lot 19, which is the home on the south side of the public way.
Is there any snakes or alligators out there? Turn this into a prison or
You
something?
know, there's some swamps that should be drained. but
Everglades
this is
North,
probably
there you
not
go.
one that we want to mess with. I think, yeah, I think there's all kinds of critters out there probably. But that's where we're at. Thank you.
And I'll agree
Trump
that
down here.
probably as we go back through the aerials, that's where the size change comes in. You'll see different aerials, different levels of water, different ground that
Sure.
is showing at that time. Just depends on when it was surveyed, at what moment in time, where that water level was.
Okay, anyone in support?
We do have one email on file from Alicia Salachi, who is the owner on the north, and she makes reference to that. She also included an email from a prior owner. I'll pass around and.
That's a support.
Yeah, that's in support. And again, she does benefit from it on the north side, but she's saying she's here. So I don't even have to paraphrase for her.
You want to speak? Before, please, and give your
Sure.
name.
Heck, yeah.
Good afternoon. I'm Alicia Soleche. I'm the one that owns the property to the north. So I've owned the property almost 3 years in November, and nobody ever was really parking there. And a couple years ago, I had said something to a close neighbor that I thought about saying something to the neighbors there in the south to vacate, and because they had their own lawsuit in between each other, they were upset and angry, and they were like, absolutely not. And I'm like, okay. And so last fall, there was a conversation that was stated between 2 other people about possibly asking to have it vacated at some point in time. And then all of a sudden, randomly, cars were parked there here and there sometimes, but they never were before until that conversation. So I would like to, yes, have a driveway there. But it's also that I've realized that my neighbors to the south, they're in their 80s. I adore them. They're so sweet, great people. I've never had any issues. And I'm actually don't even know all of them here, and I've never had any issues with them here. So apart from that, though, I've noticed that, yes, here and there now people have started parking, but they hadn't before. And that, you know, I've noticed a certain neighbor walking down, you know, down that area, and they will just walk down and they're just staring back into the other neighbor's property because they're the ones that had that previous legal case going on. And there was no car there in the camera pictures that I have. And then there was the time I was in the back porch and I watched him kind of like walk down, and he's looking behind into the neighbor's area where they had a conflict originally about the property there. And it just feels like it all of a sudden became an issue, really, once it was mentioned that maybe we would want to vacate it. But beforehand, nobody was parking there. And, you know, I'm asking for, yes, it would be great, have a driveway there. But also I feel bad for my 80-year-old neighbors who feel like they're getting like bullied and they're constantly being like watched and, you know, coming in just to like be nosy at things. Things are getting dropped off on my side of the property of the sub road that like I didn't put there. And so I think some of it for me, yes, to be able to have a driveway there. The other part of it is because I'm kind of tired of the conflict and feeling like there's like this bullying that's going on in my 80-year-old neighbors because they've always been really great people. And so I'm always the one that goes for the underdog. I'm trying to, you know, be on their side too. I help them. I appreciate them. I don't have my own grandparents. I've kind of adopted them, whether it's, you know, needing their leaves taken out of their roof, you know, whatever gutters or whatever, helping them go in the water, whatever it is. Like I'm here to help them as much as possible. I don't want any conflict with any neighbors. If it was through our lake, access to the lake, I would not be here. I'd be like, I would never take that from people. I'm just struggling because it doesn't go into anything. There are also other areas within there where people could park. I don't see people park in those either. They've only started randomly parking in ours when it became known that we might maybe one day vacate it. So again, you know, I'm not trying to cause issues and conflict. That's never what it was about. It's, you know, some of it is more of just kind of like helping close a case because it seems like it's became this like big thing when it really shouldn't be because nobody was using it before. Everybody has their own properties. And if nobody, and even the letter I have, the guy I purchased the house from for 30 years, he had it. And when I talked to him, he said, every so often, maybe they would have somebody come and it would be like a neighbor would have family or something for like a holiday. And maybe they would park there. Since I've owned the property, I've not seen anybody that hasn't lived in the area, but everybody has their own property, everybody has their own space. Had it been something like that, yeah, like, but I have never seen any of that. It's always been more people who live in the area who have their own parking, but they're just now wanting to park there because now it became something that might, you know, that would be brought to court possibly to see if it could be vacated. So I'm here representing my neighbors too, because I feel bad because I can't imagine being in your 80s and feeling like you're being like harassed and being bullied and just like struggling like with neighbors being upset and the previous case being like bickered at and like, you know, I don't want to be in the middle of anybody's problems. But I also know where to stand when it comes to somebody being treated wrong. And I don't like that at all by any means. So that's pretty much the story.
How long have you lived there?
It'll be 3 years I've owned it. So actually had renters in it. I'm actually moving in it now. So yeah. Yeah.
Thank you.
All right.
Any other questions? All right, thank you. Anyone else in support? Anyone in opposition?
So we do have a letter on file from Walt Runyon, and there's some attachments with it. One of the attachments is also a petition. I'll pass that around, and I know that we did get that out as well, so hopefully you've seen that, but that's coming around just in opposition.
Okay, sir.
I am Walt Runyon, and I'm on 40 BMS 40C. Okay. I have the opposition, and I shall read that first, but.
Can you speak up just a little bit, please?
I sure will, gladly. According to Alicia, she does have a driveway there. She doesn't live there. She rents it out. Maybe she's going to move in today, but she has never lived there. It's always been a rental. Just saying that. The opposition to the vacation of the stub road coming off of B40, parking has always been an issue at the lake. Whenever we need extra parking, this area has always been used. Since the Rooses moved here in 2016, they have tried to claim this area as their own and harass people who have used this area. They currently maintain a burn pile in this area. We would like to maintain this area for community parking, and please put an end to the Rooses trying to block and harass people from using this area. And then I don't know if you got all the other stuff as far as different people. And I've got over a dozen signatures. More would sign if they knew their names would not be exposed. And I said, I can't promise that. Jennifer, my name is Sherry. and she's on B40F. Please add my name, my husband's name, Luke, to this. We would like to have this lot available for extra parking. We learned about that spot a few years ago. We wished we knew earlier about this overflow parking. We both would like to keep this for all of us needing an extra parking spot for a day or an occasion. Passing this around, so many people ask, how did Jama Roos get the wetlands, that big head? And just to give you some back history on it, Jama went to the courthouse and came back and told us to look at Beacon, which shows the current view. This has been about 8 or 9 years ago. She told us she doesn't own it, and if anyone wants, they can take down the Range Rick signs and the no trespassing sign that her parent put up to block the channel. Fast forward a few years. We asked Jama how she got this done, and she said that she didn't do it. Mike Kissinger did it. You all know Mike. You can ask him his part of it. Some back history. In 1948, Donald K. White platted out the Crestwood. It showed it would be 6 acres, of which the first phase would be a little over 3 acres. In 1956, Donald K. White did the second phase. At this time, it showed 6.8 acres plus or minus instead of the 6 acres, of which this phase used 3.5 acres. So we're up to 6.5 acres, which left about a 1/4 acre, which is pretty consistent with the Beacon map of 2015 shows, and what K. White could have given Jama Roos. Question on that one is, how did 2.2 acres get added without a survey? To the best of my knowledge, the Rooses have never had an official survey of this area. Another time concerning the Rooses submitted a survey done by Mike Huffman of their property at 8B40G.
Excuse me. What's your point here with this?
I'm showing the background of what is capable of going on.
I don't
You
see
don't
the
think that's
relevance of
because
what we're talking about.
Okay. I'm just trying to lay the groundworks. I'm new to this.
There's ground there. You don't disagree with that. You're
Right.
disagreeing with the size of the ground is what I'm getting.
Right,
Talking about
exactly.
the island?
The island. So, okay.
Okay. They took the survey and they altered it and gave it to Judge Reed. Now, I still have the original survey from Huffman and I have the altered survey that they submitted to Reed concerning their property. This particular area of, we're talking about the vacation, the Rooses have been claiming in this area that they are trying to vacate for years, and they have harassed residents and families that use it. Our question concerning what you just asked is, how can anyone come into the courthouse and take whatever they want without going about legally? This vacation was never put into the newspaper, which I'm just understanding didn't have to be. Did not know that. We were never notified, nor was Marta Wonder, and it was divine intervention. My wife happened to see somebody down there taking a picture of this. So I called up the Planning Commission on that Monday to find out what's going on. So between last Monday and Friday, put the petition together of people that want to keep it because they use it. And so what I'm asking is 2 things, and this might not be the right place because I don't know, is to return the 2 acres, the swamp that was added without a survey, without anything, back to the state and turn down this vacation that the Rooses are trying to take. Ta-da.
I can answer the first part. No, we got nothing in that dog fight. So yeah, the acreage on that is set by different statutes and.
That's not what this is
courts.
about.
Right, right.
Okay. Any questions? All right, thank you.
Okay.
Anybody else?
Hi, my name is Jennifer Ferguson. We have a property 35 EMS B40C. I'm just here to speak our opposition on the proposed vacation of the unimproved subroad located between lots 19 and 20. My husband couldn't be here today, and many of our community members did sign the petition in regards to opposing the vacation of the stub road. The unimproved stub road is quite frankly been used for parking. It may not be used in the winter months. It may not be used in the spring months, but certainly holiday weekends when people have families up. As you can see, some of these roads are very narrow and some people don't have a lot of parking. It benefits the whole community to keep it as an unimproved stub road. It's not going to be blocking their access to the marshland. They have a fence up right now and they have a gated lock on their side of the property to be able to access their land. So to acquire the stub road to add to it, I don't really see that that is necessary. They do have a fire pit. The community used to burn seaweed over there until the Rooses said that they owned the land and for us not to park there and not to use the fire pit. Again, I just want to express mine and our community members' oppositions to vacating the sub road. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, Mr. Roche, you have the right to address.
Well, I was hoping to not go into all this, but some people have. So a few years ago, the Runyons and the Fergusons, Matthew Ferguson, her husband, harassed the Rooses to the point where they had to sue them for slander of title. And they were represented by my office, and then Steve Snyder represented the Runyons and the Fergusons. And you can see the result of the lawsuit and what they're here today. And I highlighted probably the most important part, but an agreed judgment, meaning their attorney told them, you'd better agree to this or it's going to be worse. Paragraph 8, Walt Runyon and Sherry Runyon are permanently enjoined from going upon the property of Maple Path, which is our Rooses, which is government lot 7, that they are not to be upon the southern half of the unimproved road lying between lot 19 and 20. They continue to park there, even though their agreed judgment is they're permanently enjoined from going on the southern half of the unimproved road lying between lots 19 and 20. This has been litigated to the enormous detriment of the Rooses. You talked about the bullying. They had to spend thousands of dollars from these people whom you heard what he was saying about the nonsensical thing about this island. It's been litigated. It's been resolved. And here are the Fergusons and the Runyons again today having some problem with the idea that they think that they have some right to this government lot 7, Rooses property. Sub roads, that wasn't put there for people to park. And that's never been why people to park. And that's never been why people create public right-of-ways. In fact, you can park on a public right-of-way, but that's not the purpose of a public right-of-way. If you look in the plat, other places in the plat, like directly across the street, that corner lot just below Matt's cursor, that isn't area reserved in the lot. I am assuming kind of when they did this back in the day, it was for a common area that may be allowed for people to park. That's different. That's an easement for the use of everybody than the dedication of a public right-of-way. And again, statute tells you the reason to remonstrate or not to grant a vacation is if they're blocking access to a school, church, a public place. They're not blocking access to anybody from that stub road. They're not guaranteed the right to park down there. And then to continue to harass the two remonstrators, the Rooses, it's ridiculous. And I didn't want to talk about it today because I think the Rooses would just like to be good neighbors, but here we are. So that's what they agreed to. And here we are. So thank you.
Thank you. All right. No more public comment. Okay, discussion. What are your thoughts?
Matt, if you do click on that marshland.
Yes.
Would you mind clicking on that one? Okay, just wanted to see.
You can see it better outlined right there. Yeah.
Okay. And so that's what was referred to as government lot 7.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, going back to through the, yeah.
When they were talking about an unimproved drive, what were they talking?
Unimproved right of way. So right, let me get this off here, Larry.
So you had up on.
Yeah, if on the video. Back it up, you can see the whole thing. Okay, right there, Larry. That grassed area out between the shed and the brush line, the pole, utility poles, that's the unimproved right-of-way area. So this is a platted road that went between these two lots.
And where is that located on that map?
Right here. This area right through here.
The entire area.
Yep. So if you look at the plat, and let me pull up the plat, maybe that might even bear with me here. Give you the reference. Get the right. Okay, so this is first addition to Crestwood. So this area right here, Larry, see how it's unimproved? There's not platted right away. And it's hard to say what the developer was thinking at that time. Maybe they thought there was going to be some possibility in the future. Maybe they didn't. It's hard to say. We're looking at a plat that was laid out back in 1960s, I think it was. I'm reading that right. So, don't know.
Well, I know I'm sitting here thinking when they were talking about using this as parking, to me, right away and parking are contradiction in terms.
Sure. Yeah. And
so I can't see that, as has been pointed out, there's any right to park in there. It was a right of way. That's what it was designed for whatever reason.
Correct.
So I'm going to make a motion that we approve what's been presented for the vacation.
Second.
My motion. Got a second. Discussion.
And that is, half of it will remain as is, as a right of way to lot 7.
It's vacated all the way through is
Straight
what,
down the middle.
so the full vacation, half will go to the north, half will go to the south.
But part of it is they have agreed to
Yes.
provide access.
Yes, I'm sorry, yes.
So there is
So the
access.
access to government lot 7 will remain.
Yeah.
It'll become a private access. It won't be a public right of way anymore. They'll actually have a stub that comes out onto B40G lane at that point.
Yeah. So does that part become part of the deed to
Yes.
government lot 7?
They'll deed those two together accordingly.
Okay.
Yep.
So it will have basically a
Right.
little spur coming
Yep.
out.
So we don't end up with a landlocked situation.
Right.
I'd like to point out too, that open burning in the residential area is a violation. And if it would get off in the dry time, if it would get off into that government lot 7, it would be toasted.
Yeah.
And all the wildlife on that would have no place to go.
Yeah.
Alligators, snakes.
Yeah, all the alligators.
Any other discussion? Do we have a motion to basically approve as presented to recommend to the commissioners? So we'll call for the vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Okay, and just like the other two, this one we will be taking a favorable recommendation to vacate 8-0 to their the commissioner's July 29th meeting right here, 9 o'clock in the morning. So this will obviously be third one down of our vacations, and then we'll see, back to the commissioners. So that is the last hearing we have. It's up to you guys. Whether or not, we've been talking about ordinance amendments, we can talk about those some more. We can take a month and just absorb what we've had. I can fill you in that we have had some conversations. We went back through after our last meeting with those items that we talked about, had some good conversations about the fencing, which I think was one of the big questions, especially how that could impact agricultural. I think we're to a point where we can address that and exempt those out so we don't, the intent being more easement areas where we need to protect those drainage utility easements. So we've got that. We've got another set that we can talk about as well, or I'll be honest, I didn't know it was going to go this long. We can just say that's it and next month.
I think next month. What do you guys think? Next month?
Still no word on parking out here?
No, I know that's still in the works. I don't have a date of when it's going to affect. Once I know what their indication is going to be with, and Larry's talking about the parking program that the city's implementing, that it used to be that you got 2 hours, you rolled forward, you got 2 more hours. Now the new system, evidently it's going to track you. You get 2 hours. After 2 hours, you start getting charged. So I'm not sure how that's going to work. Not our program, the city's working on it, but we will let you know. My short answer is they're probably going to say, we got 3 lots. I'm not saying that's the best option, but we do have the lot. So if that's the case, we'll get to make sure. Here's a quick, does everybody have a parking tag, county parking tag? Do you guys have county park? Okay. For you,
No.
you meet at night. You don't
Guess
matter.
I'll just fight the ticket.
So yeah, so definitely when that goes in effect, we'll make sure you have county parking tags. That opens up the lot behind Diggs as well as the Munson lot. So if we know where Munson Auto used to be, that's the Munson lot. Diggs lot, right next to the Historical Society. And then there's always the Justice Building lot that was just expanded as well. So if that's the situation, I'll know more hopefully as we go, and I can speak for the county employees. I hope we find out soon, because there are times I'm on the road, I come back, and then I go back out on the road. So we need to know so I don't get a ticket. I don't want it.
I'll park in the yard if I get permission.
Wait.
Is it a right of way?
And just for the record, I am going to text Mike and if Mike's listening by chance to this hearing, yeah. So, but anyway, I will try to have answers for you guys.
Okay, so we have a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second? All in favor?
Aye.
We are adjourned. Thank you.
Red one.